glad to see so many of you joining on the chat. This is very cool. So this is a first for me, so we'll see how that goes. But the idea is that we will design a TTRPG from scratch using Affinity Publisher. So Affinity Publisher is like a layout software, right? And this is the main software that I'm using to make the layouts for all of my games, right? So if you've seen things like Breathless, if you've seen things like Stoneburner and whatever, all of that was designed inside Affinity Publisher. I'm technically I'm on baby duty, so I've got my kids who are sleeping right now. So if I may need to pause at some point during the stream if I need to go and take care of them. So I hope you will understand. But yeah, this is gonna be fun. Let's start. So I really want to make this interactive as much as possible. So if you're in the chat, like, first of all, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to join in. This is very fun. But also, like, I really want to make this interactive. So if you have ideas, if you have comments, I'm going to read the chat. For some reason, I need to manually look at the YouTube chat while the Twitch one is able to stream inside my recording software. So if you're on YouTube, that's fine. I can just go in there and see what you guys are talking about. But yeah, so what are we creating today, right? So we're going to create a game, or at least the layout. I don't know if we're going to write anything or actual text. My goal today is mostly to teach you how to like start an Affinity Publisher like project from scratch, more than like we're going to write some game mechanics and everything. We may actually do that. Like, maybe we'll have the time, maybe not. Maybe we'll do that in another stream. But for now, I really want to focus on like taking that blank page and writing some things in it, making some basic layout, right? So things I want to cover include stuff like creating a new file, choosing a format and stuff like that, managing master pages, handling colors, pagination, margins, bleeds, all the kind of stuff that you don't touch really once you've set them up. It's like the basic of your document, and afterwards it's just like, well, it's just there, it just works. Also configuring all the text styles, like having your heading 1, 2, and 3, your paragraph, your bullet points, and things like that. So yeah, y'all have an idea of what we're gonna create, right? Like, I think we need a theme for our game. Because obviously I think a layout should be like the mechanics of a game. It should be tied to the theme, right? We don't want to make something that is a sci-fi aesthetic for a game that's fantasy-like, right? So we'll want to create a layout with a specific aesthetic. Do we want to create something that's more sci-fi? Do we want to create something that's a bit more like fantasy, maybe some horror? Really depends. Like, if you have an idea, drop it in the chat. But at the bare minimum, what we're going to do is we're going to create our Affinity file. So usually when you create like a file, you need to choose your page size. So this could be like, if I take a look at something like Stoneburner, right? So it's a portrait book in a digest format. So what I mean by digest is that the size of this book, we have 5.5 inches horizontally and then 8.5 vertically. So that's a digest. That's half a letter format. So letter is like 11 inches tall, and then 8.5 on the horizontal scale. So basically like a normal sheet of paper if you live in Canada or in the US, right? I usually use those. I usually use 5.5 by 8.5, mostly because it's the kind of paper that like is mostly available here in Canada. Like, obviously, if you're in Europe or something like that, maybe you'll want to make something in the A4 or A5 format, but here I'll probably go with something like a digest format. So a good way to start, right? Like, you don't necessarily want to print your game. That's understandable. Printing is expensive. You have to handle like the printing and then the distribution and all of that. But thinking about printing from the moment you create your document is something that is extremely important, because it allows you to set the proper bleed settings and margins and use the proper colors that printers can handle. And if you don't do that, and then later on you decide to actually print your game, going over through those settings again later in the process is extremely painful. Like, believe me, I've done it. Like, I made a game that wasn't made to be printable. I decided I wanted to print it, had to change all my margins, all my configuration and all that, and it was a horrible pain. So we'll want to think about that from the get-go. And a good way to do that is to start with, let me share my screen. What I'll share this tab. Here we go. Normally you should be able to see this nice little website called Mixim. So Mixim is a website, like I'm on the Canadian website, they have a US one and one in the UK, but it's an online like printer, like an online service that you can use to print books. And what I really like about their site, apart from the fact that you can basically print your books yourself, is the fact that like when you select a format, like right now I'm on the booklet page, like you can select the size here. So let's say we want to make a book in digest format, so 5.5 inches by 8.5 inches. When I select that, I can scroll down here and click on download your PDF. And this will give me a template to be sure that like when I create my document in Publisher, I'm going to have the right bleed settings so that if I decide to print the thing, it's going to be good. Right? It's going to have the proper settings. But yeah, this is where we're going to start. So I'm going to go back here and share a window. I'm going to share my Publisher. Just need to find it. Here we go. Right. There's nothing there. Right. This is where I want to start. Don't worry too much. Let me try to make that a bit smaller so that it's easier for you all to see. I'm going to be zooming in a lot. I've tried to increase the actual size of the text as much as I could, but like Affinity doesn't allow me to make it bigger than that. So we'll have to deal with it. So I'm going to go to File and I'm going to go to New. I'm going to create a new document. For some reason, you don't see that window because it's like a separate window, which is a bit frustrating. So let's see if I can share that other window, because otherwise that's just frustrating. Doesn't want me to. Oh, am I going to share my entire screen? I don't think so. Maybe. Let's see. Okay. There we go. So now you should see my Affinity Publisher again, and then you should see my new document. So from there, what I'll want to do is that I will create a new layout. I'm going to create a new document. So in there, I'm currently in the document unit of inches. I'll keep it as inches for now. I may switch later, but for now I'm going to keep it as inches. And what I want to do is set my page width to 5.5 inches and my page height to 8.5 inches. I'm going to leave the DPI as is. I'm going to change the image placement to prefer embedded. So what this does is that when you add images inside your document, Affinity has the ability to either link to that image. So if, for example, it's inside your download folder or something like that, it's going to stay there. And then the document is just going to link to it. The problem is that, like, if you want to send that file to somebody else, or if you have a backup mechanism in your computer, if you're syncing with Google Drive, that image won't be synced, right? So usually I always prefer embedded because it's going to take that image and actually save it within the Affinity project. So if I back up my Affinity project, the image is going to be backed up with it. So again, I got burned hard because I didn't set that in the past. So I'm telling you, I think you should prefer embedded. I'm gonna leave those configuration as is. Same thing for the colors. We want to be in CMYK, right? Like those are the colors for printing stuff. Okay, margins. Margins are super important, right? Like they make sure that you are far away from the edges of the paper so that like it isn't cut when the paper, because like if you print a game or document or like something like that, your document is going to be actually printed on a very big sheet of paper. And then there's going to be a machine that's going to cut it up to a precise location. So like it won't be printed on a 5.5 by 8.5 piece of paper. It's going to be printed on something that's way bigger, and then it's going to be cut at 5.5 by 8.5. So having proper bleed settings and margin settings is what is going to allow us to make sure that like when it is cut, we won't have any of our text or any of our important graphic that's going to be part of that. So for the margins for a document of this size, like there's many resources online that you can find. You can search for like 5.5 by 8.5 document margins or bleed and stuff like that. But usually like 0.5 for everything, and then 0.75 I think for the inner margins. So like you see the blue lines changing over here, right? So those are the margins, and you can see that like there's 0.5 inches of margin everywhere, and inner margin is 0.75. The inner margin is where there's the spine of the book, and that's super important because like if you print on a document like this one, on a book like this one, the spine is actually going to make it very hard to read if the text is too close to the interior of the page. So you want to include more margin to make sure that you don't include text in there, because otherwise your readers will have to like stretch the book and maybe break it to be able to access what's in there. So yeah, again, do your research, like to depending on like which paper size you're choosing to use proper settings here. Like this should be enough. I think it's 0.6, but like I need to do some research. Like let's go with 0.6, and I think it's 0.6, but I double check. For the bleed, this is a good setting by default, 0.125 inches. Like this is like the standard, and we'll be able to double check that in just a second because we downloaded a template from Mixam. So I'm just going to go in there and click create. And then what I'll do is I'll take my PDF from Mixam, and I'm going to drop it here. And then I'm going to stop sharing and just start sharing directly Publisher. Okay, let's take a look at the chat for a second. Okay. All right. So we have our document here. So this is a PDF that I've just embedded inside Affinity. So what I'll want to do is make sure that like I'm using the proper configuration so that like when I'm not in preview mode, there's a preview mode button at the top. When I'm not in preview mode, I can see the little purple, not purple, teal line, right? That is our bleed. This is the extra space that we put because when the paper is going to be cut at the printer, it will not be always a very straight line. And this is frustrating when you work digitally and then you start printing your stuff. Like the fact that like things aren't super precise is something that can be very frustrating. So you need to give yourself a bit of leeway. Is that a word? I think it's a word. Anyway, so I've uploaded this PDF inside my document, but I'm currently on page 1. I don't want that. I'm going to go to pages. You can see I've got a page here. This is, what does it say? Front outer cover and back cover inner. So this feels good, right? If I go to preview mode, I can see that like all the teal disappears, and then I've got like some extra space. This is a quiet area around all edges of 0.25 inches. So that's like, again, more space to make sure that the printer doesn't screw up with our layout. And you can see our blue line here, that is our margin. So we're like, if we put like a logo in there, like for example, I'm just going to drop like some text here, logo. If we put a logo, we need to make sure that like it is inside the margins, because otherwise like it may be like cut when printed. So I'm going to take this document, this PDF that I have over here. I'm going to go to page 2. I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to change it to, I'm going to change the page of the PDF. So it says body right. I'm going to add another page here. So when you design, you usually have like pages, but inside a book, you have usually 2 pages open at the same time. This is called the spread, right? So this is what we want. So I'm going to open this thing here. So we have body right. I'm going to change the page here. No, page body left. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to switch those two. There we go. Cool. So let's ignore this one for now. So we have body right. So you see that there's like, I think it's this one, right? Yeah, I think this one would be, I think this one is the extra padding on the interior in any case. So if I click on preview mode, you can see that this thing disappears, right? But we still have a teal line on the right. And that's normal because we're currently in the bleed, but we're like outside the spine. So it goes over the other one. So like, I'm just going to take that and crop it out. So that's our body left. And then if I go here, I'm just going to take that here. This would be body right. And then I'm going to change the crop to take this crop here. And then this one, we remove it. There we go. So now we have our content on the left, our content on the right. If I click on preview mode, I can see all my bleed disappears. And then if I remove that, you can see our margins, right? I'm just going to hide those two things again. And then you can see that like we've got more margin inside because of the spine, and then the margin on the rest is like relatively good. So now we've got something we can work with. So I'm just gonna go here. I'm gonna hide that. Put that in the middle. Okay. So do y'all have an idea of what kind of game we're gonna create? Right? Should we make something fantasy? Should we make something horror? I was thinking about this idea yeah, like earlier. I think it was this morning or yesterday, and about like a game where the players would be kind of like paranormal investigators, but they would also be podcasters like in game, and the game could be formatted in a way that like the players are like in a podcast, and they talk like if they were in a podcast and whatever, describing events. And when they want to zoom in on an event, then they actually play out what happened. Like if like the entire game would just be that, just a bunch of flashbacks, as in they are talking to a microphone and then like recording themselves about like what was like happening, what kind of like mystery they were unveiling, and then afterwards they would like zoom in on the event and then flash back into what was happening. So perhaps this is something we could work with. So yeah, what we will do now is we'll talk about colors. So I've got my color panel. Where is it? Swatches. Yeah, for some reason it was away. Here we go. Cool. So when you colors, like if I'm just dropping some text here, right? RP. If I'm just dropping some text, obviously I could just go in there and go in my color and then like put that red, right? And that's okay. I could go there and put it black. For like just what I just did is not okay. The fact that this thing is black, because if you look at the color code, the hexadecimal color code, the bottom left corner of my screen, just here, you can see that it's like 6 zeros. And this is not something that a printer recognizes. A printer works with CMYK, cyan, magenta, yellow, and like true black. So one thing that I often do is I create a swatch, a color swatch of all the colors I'm going to use in my document. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to add a document palette. Sorry, it's called a palette, not a swatch. So I'm just going to call it like main. And this is the palette for my document. And what I will do is I will add what is called a global color. Add current color as a global color. So I'm going to click on this button, and you can see it says global color 1. I'm just going to call it, I'm going to rename it True Black. And then I'm going to edit it. And then I'm going to switch the type of color wheel and use the CMYK slider and put it to like 0 cyan, 0 magenta, 0 yellow, and 100% black, right? This is the black that a printer recognizes. And the issue, like, it may seem like a trivial thing, but if you're not doing that, let's say, for example, that like you have a black rectangle right here, and then I make this black, and then I take my text and I put it white, like this. Well, it's not white. This is white. So when printed, what the printer is going to do, if we look at this color here, it's not the true black that we just configured. It's a different black. And if I look at the setting, it says 72 cyan, 68 magenta, 67 yellow, and 88 black. And this will imbue your sheet with all of those colors instead of just being black. And this is problematic because the paper has a limit as to how much ink it can absorb. And because of that, it busts the limit. I think it's like 250. If like for a normal sheet of paper, if this number exceeds like 230, 250, something along those lines, the paper will be so imbued with ink that if you put something above it, like this RP, especially for very small text, what will happen is that like this thing will basically bleed out, and the text will feel like if you use watercolor, right? And the text just kind of like bleeds into the black behind. So like you usually don't want that. So it's very important, like if you use black and you're planning on printing, use like the proper like 0, 0, 0 cyan, 0 magenta, 0 yellow, and 100 black. So we've got this color. You can have multiple colors in there, so I could add like another global color, right? And then I'm gonna change it, and then I'm just like select like a yellow or something along those lines, right? And then if I use some text, I could like text, and then I could go in here and go to my swatch and change it to yellow. And the reason why it says global color instead of just color is that like this palette, this color inside this palette is linked. Okay, so what's super cool about this is that it is kind of like a global variable within your document, and if you change that color to something else, it will change it everywhere. So let's say, for example, I have like another rectangle that I will drop here. I'll change the color to our global color number 2, and I'm just going to rename this one to like primary. So if I go here and I decide that like yellow isn't my brand anymore, it's not the brand of the game, and I should probably change that, like what I can do is click edit fill and then just change the color, and you can see that it's changing for both my rectangle and my text. And this is something that's so useful. If you start using global colors everywhere, it just makes everything so much simpler. And it's the same thing for our true black. Like one of the things that I remember when I printed Stoneburner, I wasn't using the proper like shade of black. I was using like the 0000000 hexadecimal black, which was bad. And I needed to change it everywhere. So what I did is I used a global color like that, and I changed it. I still called it true black, but I put it red, right? And my document was basically filled with red. And I looked at like everything that was black, and I changed it so that like my entire document would always be, if it was supposed to be black, it would be red instead. And when I was done, when I couldn't see any more black in my document, I just went back. I was like, okay, cool, I'm going to put it back here, and boom, everything was black again. So yeah, little trick for you here. Bunch of things that I'm talking about. I want to make actual videos, but like you're all getting this knowledge before everyone, so enjoy. See a lot of people in the chat. Welcome. This is fun. Cool. So we have our document here. One thing I like to do, I don't like seeing that like this is not white, especially if I'm working on like a white document. So there's a thing called master pages in Affinity. And again, a little bit like global colors, master pages allow you to create some sort of template that can be reused across your entire document. So I'll go to my master page. You have one by default called my master A. I'm going to do like the other thing, and I'm just going to click on the name. And then I'm just going to call it main. And what you can do with master pages is basically set up your frames, your paginations, your border, and like the background of your document, and it will just apply everywhere. So right now I don't have any layers, so I'm just going to draw a rectangle here from the outside of my bleed all the way across all the spread. And did you see that like my pages here, they actually changed, right? That's because this page inherits from this master page. So if I go here and I had a second master, which I'm going to call like, I don't know, variant. This variant master page isn't applied here. So what I could do is take this, and let's say that like this one also has a rectangle, but this one is going to be of a different color. So I'm going to go here and then I'm going to just use white. I could go here and then right click and select apply master. And then I can choose whether I want to apply main or variant. So if I apply variant, I can click OK, and then it will change my master page to this. And one thing I realized recently is that you can apply more than one master page on a single page or a single spread. So if, for example, I wanted to have both main and variant because variant had some text, like let's add some text here. Variant. And we're going to take this, go back to our swatch and put it true black. So we have our variant here and we have like a white background. I'm going to disable the white background just for the fun of it. So I'm going to go here and apply master. I will untick this to not replace the existing master and just add it. And now I'm going to select variant. Did you see what happened? I'm going to remove the mixin PDFs that we added earlier. But like you can see here that I've got my main master as a layer on the right. And I've got my variant master as well. The variant master adds this text. So perhaps you'd have a master with like your pagination, right? So perhaps you'd have like something in the corner and then you have like a number here and here, right? So you could have like a specific master just for this. And then if I go back to my pages, you still have that variant there. But you also have your main master page that acts as like something else. So it's fun because you can use those layers, and especially if your layers have like effects and stuff like that, you can kind of like add them on top of one another, which is like a pretty cool feature. Don't use it every time, but I did use it recently and it was pretty handy. I'm going to delete this master page. I think we can keep like just one master page for now. I'm going to take this master page here. I'm going to add another variant to my swatch here. Another color, and this one I'm going to call white. There we go. Cool. So we have our main page here. That's going to be the front cover of our book. And then we have like another page, two other pages, which are going to be the first pages that are inside the actual book. So from the beginning of the stream, like all my examples, I use like the text tool, right? And you can see you can add like text like that, and then you can start typing. This is cool for titles and logos and stuff like that, but you don't want this for the main text of your game. And that's because this isn't any kind of like text layer. It is, what is it called? It's like something else. I think it's artistic text. Yeah, artistic text. So in artistic text, if you change it around, like it will scale, like the size will scale, the font size will change and all of that if you start like making it bigger or smaller. And there's another type of text frame that you can create, right? It's called the text frame. I press T a couple of times, it's going to show up. Here we go. If you're wondering about a shortcut I'm using, like don't hesitate to ask in chat. Like I just use them by hand. I just know them, so I don't often speak about them. But if I'm using something you're unsure what I use, just tell me. So I have a text frame here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop some lorem ipsum here. There we go. So I have some lorem ipsum text. And do you see what happens when I move my cursor? It just moves the text, but it doesn't make it bigger or smaller. If you do want to do that, there's a second handle. I was using the first handle at the bottom right corner, but below that one on the bottom right corner, basically, if you change that handle, this is going to make it bigger or smaller, but usually you don't want to do that. You want this first handle here. So we've talked about colors, and margins and bleeds and master pages. Now, one of the most important things we'll need to talk about is text styles. Am I still sharing Affinity? Oh, this is weird. So YouTube isn't sharing the actual screen. So I think I may have to, like, if you're on YouTube, I'm going to drop a link to the Twitch, because otherwise that's just go here. Just go to the Twitch, twitch.tv/FieryRPGs, because that's just not working. Like I'm sharing the thing, but it just looks like it doesn't work on YouTube. So just go on Twitch. Because yeah, on Twitch you'll see my screen. You should see it. Just gonna wait a second for people to change. This is so weird. I don't like. Okay, this is really weird that it wasn't working on like on YouTube. I wonder if it works on Twitter. Yeah, it looks like it's working on Twitter. Weird. Amazing. Cool. Okay. So leave YouTube. YouTube is not working. You just see my face, and that's not helpful. Like, except if you really love my face, but that's good, I guess. Okay. Let's continue. So textiles. So there's a window. If you don't see a window in Affinity that I'm talking about, you can always go to the help menu and then you search for like an actual window that you're looking for. Like, you don't see it in the stream, but there's like the menu at the top left corner, right? And inside this menu, there's an help one, and if you click on help, there's a search box, and then if you search for swatches or colors or text styles or text frames and all of that, it will just show up, and then it will like pop up, and then you can drag and drop it wherever you want. So we have a text frame here. We're just going to make it as big as our margins, right? So as I said, we don't want any of our text outside of our margins, usually, right? Because if we print a game, we may actually lose some of our text, so we don't want that. If you have some art, right, that's fine. You can put, like, if we drag a rectangle here and make this one yellow, let's imagine this is art, right? You can put art outside the margins. You can, but like, if you do so, and if you want your art to be actually kind of like filling your document, you need to put it inside the bleed. This is what the bleed is for, right? Remember, the bleed is the extra that we're giving for the printer to make a nice cut, but the cut aren't always perfect, so we give them a bit of room. So right now, this is problematic. If I wanted this to take, like, let's imagine I'm in preview mode and I want this to be like my background for my document. This is bad because it's not on the bleed. If I trigger the preview mode off, you can see that they're still white, and we don't want that. So if you have a background, or you have some borders, right? If you have like drawn some very nice borders or whatever, and you want them to be at the edge of your document, usually you'll want them on the bleed. So I'm just going to zoom in here and drag this thing so that there is no more white. When there's no more white, then it's like, it's okay, right? Now I know that this thing is over my bleed, and I will give enough room for the printer to make a nice cut. And like, you need to understand, like, whatever you put like here and even outside. Like, I remember when I printed Stoneburners and I received the copies, I forgot how they're called, but like test copies. Like, I'm gonna draw a rectangle, and that's like basically how much stuff the printer had removed on only some pages. Like, just gonna make it like red or something. I'm gonna trigger off the preview mode. In some pages, that much stuff was removed out of my document. And this was like horrible for me because I had added text in there. I had like pagination and even like nice border text. Like if you take a look at this document, you see at the top, like, I'm just gonna go back to Riverside for a second just to make my face bigger. Okay, you see at the top here, there's text over here. So if you don't make a nice cut, you're gonna cut over the text, and that's not good, right? The border, the text over here, I don't really care because it's just like it's just for the aesthetic, but like this is the name of the chapter that's there, and if you cut it, that's not good. So when I received the test copies, I had to take everything and just move everything below for, I don't know, 0.125 inches, maybe 0.25 inches, something like that. It was bad. I was not happy. I really wasn't. Cool. So let's remove this. Let's go back here. So we have our text. Let's go to text styles. By default, when you create a document, you have multiple types of text, right? You can see like you have body, you have like, you can also have, you can see it here, right? You have multiple text styles over here, and you have character styles over there. You can also see that I'm mostly going to use the menu on the right here because it gives me more space. So the text styles, you have two types. You have paragraph and character styles. A paragraph style is going to take over everything, like all the entire text until the next line break. So when you press enter, like for example, if I go here and change this to heading 1, you can see it's all big, right? If I go here, I make a line break here. So those are 2 paragraphs. And then I click on this one and change it back to heading 1. Then this one is a certain paragraph style. This one is another. Okay. And then you have character styles. So this is the menu on the left here. And you can also see it if you scroll all the way to the bottom. I don't know why there isn't a separator here, but like you can see like the little like paragraph symbol here. And then there's a little A symbol here. This is the text, the character styles. And then above, it's like the paragraph style. So if I select this word and I click on strong, this will only apply to the characters that I have selected. So if I select only the E, and I press on emphasis, then it's going to put in italic, right? If I press strong, only that letter. So you'll need to play a lot with those things, and being able to master all the settings of creating those text styles is very laborious, but it is what is going to make your game very like stand out. So what I'm going to do is we're going to create our body text, and then we're going to create our H1s and H2s. I don't think we'll need like, I'm going to delete a couple of text styles just so that like it's not really in the way. Don't want to overwhelm us, right? Like initial words, we don't need that. Line above, all of that. Number, okay, I can delete them quickly, so I'm just going to do it by end. Vertical alignment, a table body, don't need that. Cool. So let's say I wanted to change the style of a heading 1, right? By default, it's using Arial, which is like, I mean, it's an okay font, but it's like, it is not going to make our game stand out, right? Like the layout of a game is important, but the fonts are what is going to make really a big difference. Like just changing the font or something is going to change the aesthetic of the game so much. So cool. So if we wanted to make something that was a bit more like, yeah, like I don't know in which direction I'll go, so we'll see. I'm going to try a couple of fonts, and then I'm going to pick one that looks good, right? So if you want to change the font of a paragraph style or a character style, not a font, but like a configuration, you can do it directly, like inside the text frame, paragraph. There's a paragraph window here, which you can also trigger with the help menu. So if you change configuration here, it's going to change only in this location, right? So if, for example, let me change it here. Okay. So if I change the color of this text, right, and I use our yellow that we had earlier, it's only going to apply here and not even to the rest of our H1. And you can see here, you see the little plus on the H1 here. It says adding 1 plus. This means that like the style was modified locally, but it's not applying everywhere else. So if I go back here, I add a line break, adding 1. I'm going to change it here, adding 1. I'm going to take a couple of letters and then change it back to our yellow. And then I'm going to take that, go here and select adding 1. You can see that this is yellow, not the rest, and not even this thing. If you want this style to be applied everywhere, you actually need to tell Affinity Publisher to save the text style to override the text style across like the document. Oops. So you need to highlight the section that you modified, and then there's a button here that says update paragraph style, and then it updates it everywhere. I use that all the time, like either for character styles or paragraph style. It's so useful, and we're going to use that a lot. So let's try to find a nice font, right? So the font menu is at the top left corner. I've got a couple of fonts installed. Don't know which one we'll use. This one doesn't look bad. Let's put it back black. Right, so this is okay looking. I'm going to put it on the left. You can see, again, the style is only local. It's not applied here, right? This is our adding 1. I'm going to change the font size to maybe 30 points. Save that. Trigger preview mode. This is starting to look a little bit better, right? So we have our heading 1. Maybe you would like that to always be in like uppercase, and instead of like typing it like this, you can trigger the typography menu, and I think it's Command Shift T. Where is it? Typography. Come on. For some reason, it won't show. Don't know where it is. This is fun. Yeah, like no, yeah. The typography menu allows you to select like, okay, like make everything uppercase or lowercase and stuff like that. For some reason, it won't show. So anyway, so we have our text tile here. So one thing that I like to think about is that I like to make my headings stand out, have very nice fonts, right? That look sharp, that are very thematic. But the style of my body, I really want it to be accessible. I'm not going to use funky like fonts because otherwise it's just going to make everything super hard to read. So if I go here and I use like, yeah, let's say I'm using this font for the heading, and that's fine. I'm just going to make it 45 points, make it super big. That's okay, right? Like people will be able to read that even if it's like this. You can read what it says here. But if you take this body font and then I'm using the same font and then I override it for all the body style. This one says no style, so this is interesting. So here, this body paragraph isn't actually using any style. So what you'll want to do here when this happens is you click on one of those. I'm going to click on body, and then I'm going to change the font to this. Then I'm going to click save. See, the style is only applied to this thing and not even this thing. This means that this thing also has no style. You can see it here. A shortcut for this is that you can copy some text, so you can do Command or Control C, and then you highlight the other text, and then you do Command Shift V or Control Shift V if you're on Windows. And then it just applies the style. You can see it's using body now. So this is not easy to read. It may be fine for like small paragraphs, or if you have like something that you really want to pop for, but like using that makes text hard to read, and that's not good. It's like putting like red on the black background, like red text on the black background. So like having nice fonts for the H1s, H2s, and H3s, this is good, but like using not nice fonts, but like very thematic fonts is perfect for editors. But for the body, I really recommend using something that's a bit more readable. And Affinity crashed. Wow. Perfect. Okay. Do you want to restore your unsaved files, please? Okay. Didn't lose too much. Let me share my screen again. Okay. We're back. This is great. Yeah, I think it's the guide on how to break Affinity. You just like that's exactly it. That's how you break Affinity. You just use it and then it breaks. So we did lose a couple of things. I'm gonna like let's see. Let's see. What kind of font should we use for our game, right? So as I said, like for example, this is a font I used in Tales of the Burnstones, right? The Kingdom font. It's really, really sharp. It doesn't support numbers, but it's still very nice looking. But then for the body font, you'll want something like see this font has like serif. It has little legs near its ending. So like having something with serifs here could also make sense. So if I go back here and use something like going on Google font and picking fonts from there is actually a really good call because there's a lot of like very accessible fonts on that website. Like Just is a very good one. Like I really like the look of that font. Maybe reduce the letter spacing a bit, but it's a really nice looking body font. So let's go back here and change this one to. Don't want to spend too much time. Oh, this one is nice. Okay. About font sizes. So for heading font sizes, don't worry about it too much. I'd say just use something that looks nice. I think that for my editing one here, I'd probably want something a bit bigger. So maybe I'll go with 48 points or something along those lines, right? You can see if you start adding too much text in your header, maybe like you'll start having line breaks, right? Line breaks. And you probably don't want that. So you can always reduce the size of your H1s to like match the kind of aesthetic and that you want. But in my case, I think something like that looks this big is actually quite nice looking. As for the body font, it really depends on the size of your document. So if your document is something that's 8.5 by 11, like a D&D book, you'll probably want something that is 12 points because otherwise the book is so big that it's super hard to read the text if it is smaller than 12 points. And a good call here is to just save your project. Actually, I'm going to save that before Affinity starts like dying again. Stream. So when you export, like I'd recommend like try some font sizes and with your paper style, your paper format, save it, export it to a PDF, and then print it on an actual piece of paper and see if it's easy to read. That's like one of the best tests you can do. But usually 12 points for very big sheets and like a la D&D books, like it's a good call. For our book format, like 5.5 by 8.5, I would not go below 8 points. 9 points, right? So we can try with 10 and see where it leads us. Yeah, this still isn't using the textile because Affinity crashed and didn't give us the ability to. Okay, let's put this back to this. I'm going to use Just again, put it to 10 points, and then apply everywhere. I'm going to copy that, highlight everything here, Command-Shift-V, and then it's pasted. Cool, so we have our text. So here, you can see that there are two parameters that are important here. Well, there's a lot more, but like two important parameters I want to talk about right now. And it's the space between each line and each line break. So between each line is like between this one and this one, there's some space, right? And this space is very important because if it is too small, it'll make things very cramped. So if I select all this text and I go to paragraph, here, there's a thing, it's called leading here, and right now it's 10 points. So if I take this, I'm going to set an exact value. I'm going to put it to 5 points. Like, this is obviously horrible, but like, here, you can see that like the F here goes over the text of that's above, and that's like not good. And usually what you want to do, like a good setting, is that you will want something like 115%, 110%, or 120% the size of your current font size, right? So if my body has a 10-point font size, I can take this and assume that's something like, if we think 115%, well, here it'd be like 11.5, right? And that actually looks pretty good, right? Like we can see that it gives a bit of space between each line, but it still looks connected. Maybe the space between each paragraph is too much, and that we can play with as well. So this parameter here on the right says space after. So it's currently 12 points. We can change that, right? So if I make it to something like 10 points, or maybe even like 5, 7.5, I'm gonna eyeball it. But yeah, here we go. Saved. This isn't looking bad. Cool. One thing I like to do is like I made a YouTube video about this, but like you can set up shortcuts for your text style. So if, for example, like when you're online, you're using like a text editor, you can do usually like Command B or Command I to italicize or make something bold. You can do the same thing for any kind of text styles actually in Publisher. So if, for example, there's a text style here, let's say I'm pulling this one. I'm going to pull the strong text style here. I'm going to right click and edit. This is going to pull up like a big window. I hope you'll be able to see it. I really hate that like it doesn't show those windows. This is very frustrating. Let me see if I can screen. Okay, now you should see it. So this window is super useful because from there, what you can do is you can change so many parameters that are related to this text style. So for example, I could go here and change the font or something like that. But here you can say that like the strong text style, the character style, it uses the font weight bold, which is cool. What I'm going to do is go to style. I'm going to go shortcut and do Command B. I'm going to click OK. And then every time I do Command B, it's going to use that text style. You could do something like Command 1 for your H1s and stuff like that to go very quick when you're like actually writing stuff. But yeah, cool. So we have our H1 here. Maybe there's a bit too much space. I'm going to go back to my paragraph style here, make it a bit like less. Like you can see that there's a lot of leading for the H1, right? Like if this thing is like going over like that, there's a lot of space in between, so you can always change the leading parameter here. There's already like a percentage of height setting that you can select. So if you go here, actually if I go back to my body style, I can go to percentage of height, and then I can select 115%, and boom, same parameter, really, right? So here I could do the same thing. Could go to percentage of height and then go to like 90%. I'm going to click apply. And I still think there's a bit too much space between this and this, so I'm just going to reduce that. Maybe that's enough. Cool. Do Command Shift click and drag this over here, and then we're going to copy this. Just going to make sure we're aligned with our borders. Not our borders, but our margins. But here we have a pretty nice looking document, right? So do we have any questions in the chat? Let me stop sharing this thing because otherwise we're just making this infinite loop. Okay, gonna go back to sharing Publisher. If y'all have any questions in the chat, I'm here to answer them. I really like, this is a two-way street. So, yeah. All right. So we have our H1s, we have our body. Another thing that could be fun is adding an H2, right? So I'm going to go here and I'm going to click here and click on new style. You also have the same menu on the right here. It's like this little icon, new paragraph style. So new style is going to be updating too. Affinity is really about inheritance. Inheritance is like everywhere. You can inherit like color settings, you can inherit master pages. You can also you can make text styles that inherit from other text styles. And this can be chaotic really fast. And like I'm a software engineer like during the day, and inheritance is something that I'm always very scared of because it can have so many side effects, and it's the exact same thing with Affinity Publisher. So if we're here, usually I'm not gonna make this based on anything, right? I don't like inheritance in Publisher, so I'm gonna try not to use it for paragraph style. Sometimes you are forced to use it, but like not right now. So we have our heading 2 here. I'm just gonna click on reset formatting. The style name is already used. Yeah, of course, we already had an H2 over there, so I'm just gonna use it. Okay, so heading 2. So one thing that I'll do here is I'm going to use the same Jost font that we had over here. I'm going to use the black version. Would really like to make this uppercase by default, but my typography menu won't show up, so that's okay. So again, here we have an H2. I'm going to apply the style and save it, and I'm going to go here, maybe add some additional H2 here, add some stuff. When you start playing around with text like that, I don't know if you saw, but like because I pasted this H2 thing here, and then I pressed like enter, for some reason it added another H2 below. So like if I change a parameter in my body, and let's imagine I put it like to yellow and save it everywhere, you can see that this style isn't saved. You always have to keep a look on this drop down when you're editing style. You have to see what the current style is for your highlighted text. So here it's not using body, it's using H2, and it just took the text that was beside it and it changed the parameters of the H2. It has overridden them. So yeah, in this case, I'll want to select body again. I'm going to select true black again. So we have stuff like that. I'm going to change the parameter of my H2. I'm going to go back to paragraph here. I'm going to change the spacing after to like, I don't know, 7.5, even 5. I'm going to save that. You kind of want like, it's the same thing with like web development, like web design and book layout. Like when you're playing with typography, you really want to create some sort of hierarchy of things, right? You have like your H1s, and then you have some text, and then you have an H2, and then you have some text. The thing is, you want the space between this and the thing below to be smaller than the space between this paragraph and the second thing, because this paragraph is very tightly connected to this heading, right? Like if this was something explaining the core mechanic of our game, well, the text that's below is what's important, not this one, right? Like if this had like a very large spacing here, and like let's say that like this changed like that, this just wouldn't make sense, right? You have to make sure that like the spacing between your things makes sense and create a hierarchy so that it's easier to parse. So if I go back here, I really want to reduce that a bit. There's already a bit of leading here. I'm just going to take it to like a percentage of the height. I'm going to put it back to 115%. And like, yeah, something like 2 points. This looks good enough. I'm going to save that. And you can see it's easier to read, right? You have your adding one, some text, and then extra space, right? We have 7.5 points of space between this and this. And then we have 2 points between this one and this one. This creates a hierarchy, right? And perhaps we'd want to have like the same amount of space between this and this. Like perhaps we always want to have 7.5. But what we want is that this thing would have more space on top of it, right? So this is the parameter to change if you want to add space before. So maybe we have 10 points before that is merged with the 7.5. This is the thing, right? You can sum space. You see this parameter, like space between the same style and some space before and after. Here we have 7.5 below. And this one has 10 before. It won't add them up by default. It won't make 17.5 points of space. It will be the highest. In this case, 10 points. So that's why if I reduce this number to 4, it's just not used. It doesn't work because this value is 7.5. So here, I need to be bigger than 7.5. As soon as I'm bigger than 7.5, then it starts actually working. But what you can do, let's say I wanted like 3, you can sum space before and after, and then when it's used, then you can see that like it is 3 points plus the 7.5 that's above, right? So if I put that at actually 2.5, then we'll have 10 points in between this and this, because this one is going to be summed with this. So I'm going to save that. This is nice. I think this is pretty nice. Maybe I'll actually add more points here. This is starting to feel like, right? 10 points between this, and then we'll have like 7.5, and we'll have another 10 here. Yeah, this is looking nice. If you see this little eye icon between the text in the text frame, this means that your text frame is going over its box, right? The box is currently set so that like this is the end of it. So if you click on the eye, it's going to show up the text that's outside. So this is usually a bad sign. If you see this, it means that you broke your layout. Affinity it will actually warn you. It will tell you that like, oh, like you broke something, I won't let you export. You can override the setting, but by default, it doesn't want you to export with this because it means that something is broken. So you either need to like fix your layout, remove some text, rephrase some sentences and whatnot so that the eye disappears, right? Or one thing that you can do is you can make text flow from one box to the other. I have a YouTube video about this, but you can actually like click on this little link icon and select another box, and then it will link the 2 boxes together, and then this thing will flow into the other one. I don't use this setting often because I don't like the side effects that it creates. I like to write my text to layout. So like I will make sure that my text, I will always make sure that like each page starts with a heading, whether it is an H1 or an H2, and that if something doesn't fit a text frame, I'll just like rephrase so that it fits it, right? I'm going to write to layout. If you want to play with the justification of your text, you can always like, you have those parameters, right? Justify left, center, right, and then you have like actual like justification. Well, yeah, it's text align left, center, and right, and then justification. Became a fan of justifying my text. I think it has like a really nice look. I wasn't a fan of it, but it has grown. It has grown into me. Yeah. Any questions so far? Any things you want me to cover? Okay. How do you handle accessibility for your documents aside from color contrast and font settings? How can we leverage Affinity for this? Yeah, this is a good question. This is from YouTube. Like, yeah, being color contrast and font settings, like this is like super important. Again, like just small reminder, if you're on YouTube, you should go on Twitch. YouTube keeps like removing my screen share. Right, like that's not good. So you should go on Twitch. I'm gonna drop the link again. Sorry about that. But yeah, it is a very good question. So one of the thing I know that Affinity added like something recently. I'm just gonna take a screenshot of the color tool here just to have an image I can paste in Affinity. So I know that there's a setting now. I haven't played with it too much, but I know you can add like actual alt text to an image. I don't know where. Range, geometry, transform, layer effect, rasterize and trim, head to swatches, pre-flight interactive. Yeah, I know you can add like an alt text to a layer image, but I don't know where the setting is. Affinity. Like the number of times I Google something is like crazy. Like it's not a bad thing to Google stuff, especially for software as complicated as like Publisher. Alt text image. I know it's from the latest, like one of the latest updates. Select the objects on the tags panel. Do one of the following to provide your own alt text. Select custom, and then okay. So there's an alt panel. So I'm going to search for alt. No, tag, right? Tag panel. Where is it? I keep clicking on panels and they just don't show up. View, window, text. Yep. Yeah, it looks like it just won't show up. Maybe it's because I'm streaming. But yeah, normally it looks like if you see those are panels, this is what they mean by panel, right? So like there's a tag panel, the tag window, and if you click on it, it's supposed to allow you to select like a null text for an image. So like accessibility, usually like if you use eligible fonts, but even like um screen readers don't care about a font if it's illegible or not, because like the actual characters that are used will be able to be deciphered by the screen reader, right? So if someone is visually impaired and they're using a screen reader, the fonts that you're using aren't that much important. But if you want just to make your game accessible and easy to read in general, like choosing nice fonts, easy to read fonts, even more so for your body text is super important. The other thing is like you mentioned in the chat, like having color contrast. So if, for example, I have like a black box and I have some text and all my text is red, this is hard to read. And even more so if the red is of a different shade. If I change that to the HSL color wheel, you see that? Like being able to read this text here is going to become super easy. Like obviously if you want to do it for like the aesthetic of it, like go for it. I mean, like Morkborg is a beautiful book, but it's like obviously very hard to read because of stuff like that the authors, the layout designer decided to do, right? But like it can look very good, right? Like if I do something like this, like it has a very cool look, right? And sometimes you may want to do that, but if you're doing that, there are online testers that you can use to make sure that like your text is actually like, you can know a rating to know if your text is accessible, and if it is not, then you can play around with the shade. And even something like this, like changing the color a bit to like this shade may actually make things look a bit like it'll be easier to read. But yeah, usually using something else than a very high contrast color on a black background will make things hard to read. But something like this, it's not that bad. But there is nothing that can beat white on black or black on white. Like in terms of accessibility, those are the two purest choices that you can pick that will make things easy to read. So like if you want to make the choice for aesthetic reasons to use something different, that's fine. Just know that like you may make things hard to read for the players and the readers, right? So like I keep looking at this and I think this is looking sharp. Like that red. Like this is cool. Feels R. Maybe we'd use like a different um, shade of red. Like there's this like styling library that we use in software engineering, front end software engineering. It's called Tailwind, and they have this very nice palette. Let me share it. Tailwind color palette. Let me see if I can share my screen. Share. Right. So those colors. So they're very nice. There's like tailwindcolors.com, and then you can like pick a palette, and then you have like 50 to what is it, 950. Those are like the ratings, right? But like it's fun because like you have like different shades, and if we want, like let's say I wanted like, you can see also the text changing. Yeah, like let's say I want like this bright red over here. It's not like the same red that Affinity currently has. So if I take this, change it, use this hexadecimal code, then I'm gonna use the same one here. It's a different shade. I actually like that shade a bit better. Those colors are very well chosen. Like I really recommend it, or something like that. There's also like Radix colors, which is like similar, but yeah, something like using a palette generator. There's also like one that's called Coolers. I don't know how to pronounce it. But yeah, like you can select a color, and if you like it, you can press space and it keeps generating new colors. And if you like one, let's say I like this Celeste one, I can lock it and press space again. And then I'm like, okay, I like this one and this one. I'm going to press space again. Oh, I like this pink, and I'm going to lock it. And then it keeps just changing those two, and then you can kind of build your own palette from there and copy the EXA code, right? But again, don't forget, if you're using a color here and it's in hexadecimal, try to take a look at the CMYK combination, and if the numbers exceed like the 250 something that we talked about earlier, it will not be good as a background color. So, little reminder. Twitch isn't showing the menu. Yeah, I know. Twitch won't be showing menus because I'm only sharing like a window, but YouTube is actually not showing my screen, which is like just bad. I could saw it drop on YouTube. Like I was looking at YouTube, and like if I look on YouTube right now, like my window isn't even shared, while on Twitch I can see Affinity Publisher. This is doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's fine. Cool. So we have our body font, we have some headings. Do we keep the black on? Do we keep the red on black? For some reason I kind of want to keep it. Like one thing that's really fun about layout is that like when you have your layout, let me just change that so that it fits the bleed perfectly, because otherwise I'm just going to be distracted. When you create something like a layout like this, one thing that's really fun, if I take those two pages and duplicate them, like, is to play around with different layout depending on which page you are. So like perhaps I want those pages to be white, right? So I'm going to remove this rectangle, and then I'm going to change this color, put it back to the black that we had right here, right? And maybe that's okay, right? And maybe the black is only going to be like little borders that we're going to put at the top and the bottom, right? Maybe something like this. Then you go on another page and then it's all black, right? And maybe you have like an image, right? Like if I just go like monster image, I'm just going to take an image from the web, a random one. Yeah. Let's say, for example, I drop this image or whatever. Like, perhaps you have like something over here. Let me delete this. I'm going to make this super big. I'm going to put it there. I'm going to flip it around. Maybe I'm going to put it like that and add a filter to change the I see, color overlay. I'm going to use our swatch. Maybe use the red that we had. Reduce the opacity. Doesn't look good, but it doesn't matter. It's just here for the fun of it. Reduce the white. And then maybe add like a little gradient here. The other side. There we go. Like, you can play around with stuff like that, right? Like where you have like a page where you explain stuff, and then on the next page, you make it different. Being able to switch from one style to another between spread is going to help keep the reader interested, right? Because if it's just like a bunch of pages like that, if I just duplicate that a couple of times, it's fine, right? But it'll feel just like a nice Google Doc, just a different kind of Google Doc. But if you read this and then the next two pages you have something like this, then it's a bit more interesting, right? Actually, just putting a black and white filter on this might actually do it. Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad. I'd probably make the black even like, yeah. Now I'm becoming obsessed by this thing. Yeah, something like that, right? Like we have our red here, and maybe I'd like drop another rectangle on top, put it black. but take the black here and change the opacity or change the blend mode. Change the opacity. Sometimes playing with blend mode is also super interesting because like I don't know them all by heart, but like just going through this drop down and playing around with the opacity of a layer and changing like the blend mode to something else. Like just this thing. Yeah. Something like, what is it, subtract? This doesn't look bad, right? And change this. This was our true black. Let's make our text, put it back here. All right. So you can play around with stuff like that and just like kind of like pages a bit different, right? And keep the reader's attention a bit. Cool. Let me see the chat. So, another thing I want to talk about is that like we have headings, we have like our body text, and everything that's important is like we like bullet lists. Bullet lists are fun. The default bullet lists in Publisher actually kind of suck. They're not good. I'm gonna put like some bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3. So here, obviously, this isn't using the same style as this thing, right? So we're going to need to change it. So we know that we were using Jost. We were using, 10 points. So I'm going back here, 10 points. Save that style. So you see there's a lot of space in between those things. So remember, we can go to paragraph and change the spacing here. So what did I use? 0? 0 is a bit tight, right? It's a bit tight. So let's put like 2 points. And then yeah, here's the thing, okay? I just remembered. So here we want 7.5 points between this and the next paragraph, which we have. Here we'll want to do the same thing. The problem is that bullets are a list of the same kind of paragraph style. So how do we reduce this without affecting the spacing between this one and the next paragraph? And there's this setting here, the space between the same style. So if you toggle this one off and I change it to like 2.5 points, it will make the space between each of those 2.5 points, but between this and another kind of text style like this one, which is our body, then it's going to use the 7.5. This setting took me so long to find, so long. But now it's in my tool belt. Another thing is that like right now the bullet is like super small, and you actually have to scroll here to change that. So scrolling, bullets and numbering. So here we have a bullet, and then we have like this symbol here. What is it? It's not even like, I don't know what this symbol is, but usually what I do is I remove it and I'm going to click on this, going to add a bullet, and then I'm going to click here and press tab. Okay, so it was a tab, so that's fine. I'm going to keep it like that. Right now it's using, if I select this style and I click here, you can change the font for the bullet alone. And for some reason, the bullet in Jost actually looks, it's so small, right? So maybe we can use another symbol, maybe a square. Right? If we have something a bit more aura-like, maybe a triangle would look nice. And remove the square. So that triangle is like super big, right? So we can change the font size, I'm pretty sure. Regular, general punctuation. Yeah, doesn't look like it. So let me see if we could just take, what kind of functions? Okay, here we go. So if we take this font instead and add this symbol. Okay, I'm going to take that, copy it here, paste it like that. So let's imagine we want to keep this arrow. Oops, what is happening? Let's put it back here. So we have an arrow, and then we have a tab, and then we have the beginning of our text. But the space between that arrow and the text is way too big for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the space of the tab. So let's say I'm going to put it to 0.5, 15 inches. This looks better. So I'm going to take that and save it. The problem is that if this is actually longer, like this, you see how the first line is good, but the second line is spaced more on the right, and that just doesn't look good. So to fix this, you have to have the same number between tab stop, and if I scroll all the way up, this parameter here, left indent. So it'd be 0.15, but if you change that, it changes the parameter below. I know if you increase this one, there's a one that if you increase it, if you increase it, it's possible that it's going to change the parameter right below. So usually what you have to do is you put the same number as your indent here, and then you go in the parameter below and press 0. And then if you save that, then you have like a nice looking bullet point list that is aligned one after the other. So if you don't want that, you can always reduce this number back to 0, right? And then like your text is going to be, it's going to start after the bullet, and then the line below is going to start like at the beginning of the frame. I usually keep it like that. I think they look better, but that's a personal taste. Cool. So we have our bullet list, and then so this is nice. This is pretty sweet. Here I changed the color of this heading, and it's not affecting the other headings. And the reason for this is that like the change that I applied here is local, right? It is a local change to this specific layer. So if I take this, change it to yellow, apply it to all my H1s, it won't affect this because there's a local style overriding what is inherited from this type. The base text style is, again, like there's this inheritance concept that's just everywhere. So by default, H1s inherit from the H1 settings. And even if you change it, there's a local thing that has changed this inheritance setting, right? So if you take a look here, you can see again this little plus symbol at the top, right? Adding 1 plus. This is the thing that like is making this this style. This is what's making. It's telling us. Sorry, I'm losing my words. I guess it's getting a bit late. But yeah, it's telling us if there's a plus here. It's telling us that this text style has local changes that aren't saved inside this global text style. Right? So if you take this thing and re-click here, it will remove the plus. So you can see we've just lost our color here, right? So I'm just going to undo all of that. Cool. Oh yeah, one thing we could talk about is pagination. There's no way for me to cancel YouTube. Yeah, no, it doesn't look like it. It's okay. I'm gonna put back this to our true black. By the way, if you're watching this like this template, I restarted a Patreon. So I had a Patreon a while back when I was working on Faria and wasn't really using it, and I started like reviving it a little bit. So I'm using it to like blog about like game design and the stuff I'm working on, and I want to use it to share exclusive content for all the Patreon subscribers, right? All the patrons. So what I'm going to do is when this stream is over, I'm going to take this template and export it as an actual Affinity template. And if you want, you'll be able to use that inside your game, right? You just need to subscribe to the Fire RPG's Patreon. You can subscribe like $3 a month or something, and you'll have access to this and a lot more content in the coming months. Cool. So we have this. Let's talk about pagination. So we if we want to include the current page we're on, right? One thing that we don't want to do is create an artistic style here. Let's say I'm going to use the same font. I'm going to change the color to white. I'm going to write 3, right? Yep, it looks like the baby is waking up. Let's take a short break and let me go handle that, and I'll be back in a sec. So, talk to you in a bit. Okay, we're back. Baby is back to sleep. So, how's everyone doing? You like it? Are you liking the stream so far? I'm having fun. Yeah, so let's talk about pagination. Pagination, you don't want to do it manually. You want it to be automated, right? It's automated inside Google Docs or inside Word. Most softwares like that, you have a way to automate this process. And in Affinity, you can also do it. It's just a bit obfuscated. So let's go back here. Now, it's funny because this font is like a very big Jurassic Park vibe, right? Because of the line inside the actual, like if I Jurassic Park. You know what I mean? The line inside the actual font gives a very Jurassic Park kind of vibe. Like, especially if this thing was like red or something. Or like I think it's black and the red inside is red. Something along those lines. Anyway. Yeah, let's put it just solid. So let's say we don't want to go here and have this, right? And then have like another thing over here, and then it says 3, because otherwise we're going to need to do it on every single page, and that's not going to work. And the other problem is that, like, if we move pages around, we want this thing to be automated, right? So one way to do this is to add it to a master page and use the pagination tool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, paste those things, and then I'm going to take the borders that we added, and I'm going to remove it from our pages because they don't belong here. We can add it to our master page and have a single layout for all of this. I'm going to go to our master page and add that here. So we have our master page with those borders. Again, don't forget about your bleed, right? If you're adding borders or graphics and whatever, they need to be over your bleed, otherwise it's not going to print well. So we have our borders. We have the pagination here, which is basically hard-coded. If I go back to preview mode, we can see it says 2-3 on every single page, right? It actually doesn't even show up on this one. So, and that's because of the layers, right? I added like an additional layer on top. Oh no, it's the borders, the extra borders, I think. Oh, no, it's the background that I added on top of it, which makes the pagination not work. In this case, I'd probably use a second master page and make both of them separate layers, right? And we actually can do that. So we added a layer pagination. And I'm not going to make it inherit anything. I'm going to go back to our main layer, our main master page, take those 2 parameters out, add them over here. Won't be able to see it, right? Even though they're there, just because like it's white on white. But let's just assume it's going to work. So here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those and I'm going to apply. Oh, even more so, I'm going to make a master page inherit a master page. Fun. So my main master page is going to inherit from pagination. So if I go to main, you can see that pagination is here as a layer. I'm going to move it above. And I'm going to move it above my rectangles. So this is our top border, bottom border. So this is our bottom border, this is our top border, and this is our pagination master page, which is part of our main master page. So if I go here, why don't we see it? We should. It's right here. Let me see if I need to reapply it. Apply master, main, replace existing layer. Okay, so it seems like it was... Yeah, it seems like it was disconnected for some reason, but we see in there. So you see those little X's? Those X's are telling me that this is part of a master page layer. So if I edit this, I'm actually editing it only for this actual page. But you don't really want to do that. You kind of, because you're going to break the link between your master page and page. So usually, like when you see those X's, don't modify it, right? Because if I change it here, I'm only changing it for this page, and if I scroll down, it won't be affected here. And the problem then is that this thing, it's hard to see, but on the right side here, there are like little green and black dots, and it says that this layer is not linked to the master page anymore. And if I go back to my pagination, go back here and change this thing, which we can't see, but let's say we make it red, right? Now it's red. Nice. And then if I go here, we can see that it's red, right? And that's okay. That's normal. I changed it in my pagination master page, and it's part of my main master page. So it's there. It has inherited the settings. But if I go here, we can see it's red. And then we can see it's not red. It's white, and it says 3333. That's because I've broken the link between this element and its inheritance, right? It's hierarchy. So to restore that, you need to take your page and select apply master and reapply your master. And I think migrate is going to fix it. Not even, migrate won't. So you need to apply master and says clear. And then it will change your settings, your local settings, and then you're back to this inheriting its parameters. So we talked about master page inheritance. How do we put nice numbers in there, incrementing numbers? Let's go to our pagination here. I'm going to change that back to a white, just so that we see. I'm just going to add a layer here so that we see what we're talking about. So we have this. How do we add proper pagination? You go here, you click on the text, you right click, and then insert field. You can add many fields here, right? Page number is one of them. You can even create custom fields. So if there's the name of your game that you think you're going to change later, you could add it as a field and then change a variable, and then it just like change it everywhere inside the app. It's a very useful feature, but usually page number is like the thing you're probably going to use. So here you can see it replaced my 2 with a number sign. So I'm going to go here, take this, and paste a number sign as well. And then if I go here, I'm going to go back to preview mode. We can see 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then here we don't see it, but it's fine because we added our master. We created a master page just for pagination. So here I can make sure I'm going to clear my masters. I'm going to apply a master just for the pagination. Place existing and clear. And then we've got this. I'm going to add it on top of our rectangle, on top of our image, on top of this rectangle as well. I'm going to go back to our pagination here, remove this black box that we added only for testing purposes. Then if we go back here, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the beauty of it is that like here, I'm not using the actual white background with the borders main master page. I'm using the pagination master page, and I can place it wherever I want. And if I wanted, I could also even reduce the opacity of this master page alone in the context of this layer. So maybe like 100% opacity here, it just looks too much, right? Like we're inside a black page. We don't want this to be like that bright. So maybe it will reduce the opacity a bit, right? To 80%. And then it just looks a bit easier on the eye. Problem with pagination, sometimes we often put it at the bottom of our pages, the top of our pages, and when we do that, it means that like it's possibly going to be like cut during the printing process, right? Because of the bleed and all that. And here, like I showed with Stoneburner earlier, this is way too close to the end of the bleed, right? The end of the bleed is this gray line. Between the blue and the gray is the bleed. And then we have our margin, which is that outer blue line here. So this is way too close. We need to move that up, right? And like, I'd even argue if you want to be safe, you should probably put it, like, where should you put it? You could put it inside your margin here. I potentially just put it like beside here, put it here, and then highlight all of those, and then I'm going to drop them a couple. If you use shift and the arrows, if you use the arrows to move stuff around, it will move it by only 1 pixel, which is like sometimes useful. But usually what I do is I use shift arrows, so it's going to move it. I think it's 10 pixels by default, so it's like 10 pixels, 10 pixels, and 20 pixels below. So let's see what it looks like. Our border here isn't covering the full thing, so I'm just going to copy this over to the pagination just to see what it looks like. Does this look good? Not sure. We'll see. Okay. We'll have this thing. Let's make it the side. The order of your layers is super important, right? If something is, if my bottom border is above my pagination, I'm using command bracket, like closing bracket. I'll move it around, and then my pagination is not seen anymore. So you need to drop it below, and then your pagination is going to be visible. So if we go back here, it's probably way too close. I'd probably move things around and make a, yeah, let's move those. Reduce the size of this thing. That looks better. Maybe. I still think that this border is too big. And then move our pagination a couple of pixels below. I'm doing things quickly here. Normally out of line, but in here I'm just eyeballing just so it looks good. But yeah. Yeah. Oh, we have bots. How do I get rid of them? Go away, bot. Okay, I think this will be it for tonight. I don't think I'll actually go into any game design. I think we have a nice looking template. Like we have like H1s and H2s. We have like some text, and then we have like our pagination. We have two types of master pages. We have a dramatic shift here. With our like background. Sorry, just want to play around, continue to play around with this thing. But yeah, like we have like this shift to keep our readers' attention. Like we talked about margins and bleeds, and like I think we covered a lot of ground in like what ends up being an hour and 45 minutes, and we have like a pretty nice looking template. It's pretty generic, right? Like we're using like a sans serif font, which is Jost, and then we're using like this phosphat font for the headings, right? So like it doesn't cry out like a specific genre or a specific like thing, but that's okay. Like we could like, if we wanted, like it's crazy how our font can change everything. If I just go here and I change that to like, yeah, let's just change our headings to this, right? And use another sci-fi-ish kind of font, right? If we have something like this, just changing the fonts, you see how impactful this change is? Just changing the H1 and the H2 font, and then we have like a completely different vibe for our game, right? So fonts are super important. I really recommend, like, you can check out Google Fonts, and then there's a ton of free fonts that you can download from there. But if you want something a bit more unique, like you can go in Creative Market. It's like a place where you can buy assets and images and fonts and stuff like that. And there's you can buy fonts, right? And if you search, I don't know, Viking fonts or whatever, you're gonna find very, very nice looking fonts. And like investing the $10 to $20 per font, especially for your H1s and H2s, Like maybe you'll spend 20-30 bucks for fonts, but it really makes a game pop. And eventually you start building this very nice library of nice looking fonts, and I really recommend. There's many resources online for you to find free fonts as well if you don't want to spend it. But yeah, picking nice fonts is like a huge part of making your game looking nice. But yeah, if I just roll it back here, we still have something that looks very decent. It's generic, but there's nothing stopping you from going in there and changing the fonts and changing the borders, right? Right now, those are just black lines, but there's like, if you're using this template, because I'm going to make it available for everyone who's a Patreon subscriber, but if you're using this template to create something with it, like change the borders, change the fonts, right? And keep an accessible font as your body font. If you're using something like that's fantasy, like maybe use a font that's like serif, that has like little legs, like this one, for example, right? This one has little legs here with the hem and the I and the N, right? So use a serif font. And if you want something more sci-fi, use something without those legs, a sans serif font, but use something that accessible. All the fonts are Google fonts, are like most of them are absolutely beautiful body fonts, and I highly recommend downloading those from there. But for your adding fonts, investing a bit is really a good call, in my opinion. Great. So I think we're going to call it a night. And thanks everyone for joining in. I don't do those often, but I do want to start streaming more often. If there's a topic you'd like me to cover in a video or in a stream, just say it. If there are some problems with the stream, with the quality or anything, like just tell me. Again, this is very raw, so I'm trying to get better at it, but I do really like doing this. So yeah, if you let me get this out of the way. So truly hope you had fun. Again, I'm going to take the template and upload it to my Patreons tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. We'll see how time flies. But yeah, it was super awesome. Thanks to everyone who participated in the chat, and wishing you all a fantastic night. So cheers.